old times there was a king who had a sister who lived with him in his palace after his wife died, leaving him 3 children, 2 princes and a princess. He tried to compensate the love and care they lost after their mother's death. Their aunt was jealous of her brother's love for his children and insisted secretly to take every possible chance to keep them away from their father and get rid of them. One day, the 2 princes were playing with their sister in the gardens of the palace when the king went out. Their aunt spurred and tempted them to go with her to the forest to have some fun.
I promise to make you see beautiful and pleasant things, and that you will enjoy playing curious games under the trees.
The 3 royal siblings believed what their aunt said, and they did not recognize the evil she was hiding from them. They went with her to play and walk around the forest. The children walked with their aunt until they reached the middle of the forest. They were very exhausted, and their exhaustion was reflected on their faces throughout this long, tiring journey, and the aunt noticed that.
My dear children, sleep here under this tree till the nymphs come and play before you games, where you will find pleasure in watching them.
Okay, dear aunt.
After the aunt made sure that the children went into deep sleep, she left them alone under the tree for the predators of the forest to eat them. As they were young and unattended, they could not defend themselves. The evil aunt then returned happily unnoticed. Back in the palace, when it was lunchtime, the king arrived, but the children did not show up to have their meal. The king asked with astonishment,
"Where are my children? They didn't show up at lunchtime. Servants, search for my children." "Lord, we couldn't find any of them in the palace or the garden." "Spread and start searching in every country near and far." "Your Majesty, unfortunately we couldn't find any of them."
The king was in deep grief for the absence and disappearance of his dear children, and the fact that he didn't know where they had gone. His sadness increased, and his noble friends and ministers kept soothing him and asked him for patience.
"How can I be patient when all my children have suddenly disappeared? Many bad thoughts are popping up to my mind."
Finally, he found that it's useless to stay sad, as sadness would not return his dear children. The king decided to cling to patience and thanked God and surrendered to his will. In the forest, God hasn't forgotten the children. He sent 3 nymphs to guard and protect them. They kept hovering around the tree under which they slept.
How beautiful these children are! Each of them has a star on the forehead, which is a sign that they are of noble blood. Let's get them a gift to please them when they wake up.
They are 3, and 1 gift is not enough. We must bring them 3 gifts so that each of them may have 1.
They are young and they need someone to guard them.
I will get a deer to guard and serve them.
I will give them a sack of an endless money to spend throughout their lives.
And I will give the little girl a precious ring that will protect her and her brothers from danger. No harm will touch them as long as she wears the ring.
The 3 nymphs went to bring the gifts. When the children woke up, they found a quiet, gentle, and beautiful deer beside them. The deer started to tell them about what happened, so they thanked God. The deer kept looking after them day and night, so that no enemy could ever approach them. Few years later, the children grew up and encountered their mother deer.
You have grown up freely between the arms of nature and under its trees, but you cannot live here any longer. I advise you to go and find a healthy house to live in, like other people in the cities. However, You must choose this house to be close to your father's palace.
Thank you so much for this advice and for your time which you spent with us during the past years. We are really sad for leaving you. We will really miss this pure air, clear sky, and this quite astonishing place.
The deer and the children exchanged tearful goodbyes. The three siblings arrived safely to the city and started searching for a new house. They bought a magnificent house with a beautiful garden with windows overlooking the palace, as they had a wonder sack with endless amount of money. One day, the evil aunt was looking out of the window in the royal palace and noticed two beautiful young men and a young girl. Their aunt recognized them very well because they still had the royal star on their forehead.
These must be my brothers, children. It seems that the predators in the forest hadn't eaten them. Those are the two princes and their sister, the princess. Without any doubt.
The evil aunt watched the house until the princess went out and left their sister alone. The aunt took the opportunity to visit her and try another trap. The evil aunt visited the princess to congratulate her on the new house and showed a fervent desire for friendship. She talked with her niece, and the princess did not notice that this is her evil aunt.
I hold many parties in the palace, and I will invite you and your brothers. However, if you want to be the most beautiful girl, drink some of the water of life, which will make everyone admire you. Would you like to be the most beautiful girl?
Yes, I do. But where do I find the water of life?
I don't know. But when your brothers return, ask them to go and search for it until they find some.
Later, the two brothers returned and their sister was eagerly waiting for them.
Welcome back, my brothers. Today, one of the royal family has visited me and invited us to a party that will be held at the palace. But she advised me to drink some of the water of life, which will make me the most beautiful in the party. Could you please get me some?
I will search for this water and I will bring it to you. Don't worry.
The next morning, the prince left to search for the needed water. On his way, he met an old pious man who helped him to find his way.
Dear father, could you please show me the way through which I can find the water of life?
Oh, my son, this is the right road, but I advise you to return, as this path is very dangerous.
Thank you so much for this advice, but I must carry on walking.
The courageous prince didn't listen to the old man's advice, as he wanted to fulfill his sister's wish. He continued walking until he reached the hut of another worshipper.
Am I on the right path to the water of life, sir?
Yes, this is the right way. Walk to its end, then go up on that mountain. When you reach its top, you will find a huge gate guarded by 4 giants carrying swords in their hands. But do not be afraid. They cannot see you because they are blind. You must walk gently on your tiptoes so that no one can hear you. After you enter the huge gate, you will find a spring of water from which the water of life comes. Take what you need of it.
Following the man's words, the prince arrived to his destination. He was delighted by his victory and found himself surrounded by a gorgeous garden and an overflowing spring of water.
This must be the water of life. I'll fill these 2 bottles and return home quickly.
The prince filled his bottles and shortly left the mountain and returned to his sister, handing over the water of life.
Welcome back, dear brother. Oh, thank you for bringing me the water of life.
The princess drank the water of life, which made her really gorgeous. The three siblings went to the party, and all of the attendances were impressed by the beauty of the princess.
Look, brother, everyone is looking at me. How amazing this feeling is.
I'm glad you're happy, sister.
I must try a new ploy to get rid of them, so no one would show me my brother's love.
On the next day, the aunt went again to visit the princess.
You were the most beautiful girl yesterday. I advise you to have some of the red apples of music, which will make your voice the sweetest if you happen to sing at the party.
Where can I find the apples of music?
You can get it from the enchanted garden, from which your brothers got the water of life.
Okay, then I will ask my brothers when they return home.
Sometime later, the princess could not but tell her brothers about the apples.
Oh, you came earlier today, brother. I hope you can get me the apples of music from the enchanted garden. I was told that if I ate them, my voice would become sweet.
I'll go now to bring what you asked for, my dear sister.
The young prince took the road until he reached a hut inside the mountain, where he found the righteous man whom his brother had met before.
Dear father, please show me the way to the enchanted garden.
Continue on your way until you reach the mountain. Climb to the top. There you'll find a huge gate guarded by 4 lions.
How can I pass through the gate if the 4 lions are guarding it? I cannot fight 4 lions at once.
If you found it open, you could safely enter, and the lions will not harm you. But if the scissors were locked, do not take the risk, and do not approach the gate, or you will be turned into pieces. When you enter the enchanted garden, do not talk to anyone or answer any question, whether it is a human, an animal, or a bird, and always remember to be careful and not forget this advice.
Thank you so much. I won't forget your words.
The prince listened to the righteous man's advice. He looked over the gate and found the large scissors open, then passed safely. He then saw a tree full of many beautiful ripe red apples.
For sure, these are the apples of music.
As the prince started to collect the apples, a bird talked to him from above the trees.
The king has put your sister in prison.
The prince forgot the precious advice and responded,
This is a lie. The king didn't do any of this.
but before uttering another word, the poor prince turned into a rocky pillar in the enchanted garden. In the meantime, the princess was waiting for her brother's return, but he didn't show up. At the same time, her ring became dimmed with no sparkles as it used to be.
I think that our brother is in big trouble as my ring changed its color and become dimmer with no sparkles. Can you go and search for him?
Don't worry, sister. I will take my sword right now and go search for him.
Goodbye and take care.
Days and weeks passed, and neither of the brothers showed up. The poor princess stayed confused and preoccupied with her 2 brothers. Every morning she checked her ring to see if it was still sparkling, but the ring became completely dark.
Oh, my brothers must have died. We are undoubtedly in grave danger. I must go fetch for them. Dear sir, please show me the road that leads to the enchanted garden.
Take this path, and if you reach the mountain, go up to the top. There you will find a huge gate with 4 large snakes. Do not be afraid or upset. They will not harm you if you enter the gate with your back. And I will tell you a piece of advice that you must remember. In order to not be turned into a rocky pillar in the enchanted garden, do not speak to anyone, whether it is a human, animal, or bird, whatever the circumstances are.
Thank you for this advice. I promise to keep it in mind.
The princess broke into the gate of the enchanted garden and ran with her back. She found a marvelous garden. She then began to search in every side and corner for her brothers. While the princess was searching for her siblings, she heard a sound calling her.
Do you want to know what happened to your two siblings? Do you want to know where your brothers are? I think you are concerned to know what happened to them.
She remembered the righteous man's advice and did not utter a word. She started talking to herself as she was in great confusion.
I'm really confused. What shall I do right now? I can't find any of my brothers.
She leaned on one of the pillars and felt frustrated for her brothers and kept thinking about what happened to them. While she was leaning on the pillar, she saw a beautiful feather falling down from a bird flying next to her. She grabbed it and placed it on the pillar when suddenly the pillar started moving and her brother appeared.
You were bewitched into a rocky pillar?
Oof. Yes, and the second pillar is our younger brother. Put the magical feather over it so it turns into a human like you did with me.
Thank God you are both safe. Come on, brothers. Let's get out of this horrible garden before any more harm happens to us.
We must eat some from the apples of music before we go. We have been through a lot, and we were terribly tortured to reach these apples. Now, we can see it before our eyes. What would be the meaning of all this suffering if we didn't eat it and take some with us?
While the siblings were singing beautiful songs and walking joyfully and happily, their father was riding his horse nearby. Amazed by their magnificent voices and beautiful, the king stopped them for a chat.
Hello, sweet children. Who are you?
Oh, that sign! You can't be my children whom I lost years ago. I searched a lot for you, but without hope. I sent my guards to search for you everywhere, but it was useless. Come here, my darlings, between my arms. I really missed you. Where have you been all this time?
Oh, dear father. It started when our aunt took us to the forest and left us there under the tree. We stayed in the forest for a bit long time, but God thankfully helped us and kept us safe. After we left the forest and settled behind the palace, our aunt tried to get rid of us and you, and we were about to die.
Oh, my dear children, I'm really shocked of what happened and all these troubles you went through, and how sadly it has been your aunt who did that. The king returned to the palace with a pleased heart, with her 3 children, the 2 princes and the princess. Everyone in the palace received them with joy and happiness after this long time. Everyone congratulated the king and resented his wicked, evil sister who has been put in prison for the rest of her life. The king lived happily with his 2 sons and daughter, thinking of nothing but his people's common good. The entire country enjoyed prosperity and lived in peace and justice ever after.